Okay, today we are going to talk about Rialto, the whole map. We're going to talk about some things I recommend doing, some things I recommend watching out for, focusing largely on the defender's perspective, because they are typically the ones that are trying to do something more specific. The attackers typically have more freedom in what they're trying to do. So, let's start with defending checkpoint A. So this is true for basically all of Rialto, where Orisa Roadhog are pretty much the best combo of tanks you can run the entire map, because, well, there's a lot of death pits to try and put people on, even like right here, outside of the attacker's first spawn, and there's just a lot of open space that the attacking team has to traverse, because they gotta get all the way over here, then they gotta go through this death trench, then even all the way over here, they've got all this space to cover, and it just continues like that the whole way through. There's a lot of long sight lines to be abused, which is where Orisa will benefit, and Reinhardt will have more trouble because he's got more distance to cover until he actually gets to the enemy team. So, Orisa Roadhog, they're good the whole way through Rialto, basically. People usually like to go bunker for the first checkpoint. It's a pretty good map for it, because you can sit up here with the bunker, and it's pretty obnoxious to push into a bastion this way. Even just a Torbjorn, like, it's pretty obnoxious. I'm not as fond of the bunker on this map, at least until the later checkpoints, personally. Especially given that this first checkpoint is really good for Pharah, because you've got this whole region to work with up here as Pharah, which makes it very annoying to play a bunker against, because especially since Pharah can just like poke and prod at you, come over the top, drop down, and then do that to you. So I'm not such of a fan of the bunker for the first checkpoint. I just prefer the long-range DPS for the most part. Doesn't really matter which one. McCree can be nice because there's usually a lot of flanking going on, because you've got this way over here, and then once they push up a little bit, they've got more options for flanking as well. McCree ends up being pretty good, though McCree's just blanketly pretty good. Mei's really good for the first checkpoint because, well, look at all this space you've got to wall people off in. And once they get into, like, this hallway, you throw your blizzard, like, right here, well, they're pretty upset about that. Also, Mei is good because one of the more likely reasons for you to get team wiped on the first point is your team gets stuck in a big AoE ultimate right here, but Mei can just wall this whole section off, and then, so she can help, like, mitigate that with just one of her abilities rather than having to use an ultimate. Zenyatta also ends up being pretty good for, you know, the same reason, though Zenyatta ends up being pretty good blanketly for that reason, so there you go. So just the long-range hit-scan DPS, Mei, well, just the long-range DPS, Hanzo's long-range, he's not hit-scan. Mei's really good, Roadhog Orisa. Anna and Batista are really good. This is a really good map for Batista because he gets to make use of his powerful knees very nicely, because something good to do as Batista generally is hang out near somewhere where there's high ground and low ground, and then if something bad happens, you can use your knees to jump up onto the high ground, and then you can like bait out flankers or divers by standing on the high ground, jump down, immediately jump back up. So Batista gets to do some cool stuff on here because there's a few places he can do that, even all the way back over here. You know, you can hang out here, oh fuck, flanker coming, I jump up here. Wait up here, oh, Winston jumps in, jump down, bait him, jump back up again. Batista gets to do that, and long sight lines, Anna gets to be really good on any map that's got that, especially with, like, a confined location in it as well. Makes it easy to get, like, big bio grenades in there, so they end up being really good. And, you know, Zenyatta, blanketly pretty good choice. Is pretty good for Bridget right now, but we'll see after Bridget gets her changes, which I'm not too happy about, so that's what I recommend playing. Things to watch out for. While you're defending up here, which is how you're gonna usually start out, is you're gonna be sitting up here, you'll usually end up having to fall back before too long, but you'll be up here originally, and like the longer range heroes will be up here on the high ground. You've got to watch out for basically someone coming around this way, like flankers and Roadhog players like to come around here just as like a different angle on the shield, so you've got to kind of watch out for that. And you've got to watch out for this way over here, because what typically happens is like Anna's sat here, isn't watching this way at all, they just peek in every now and then. Or there's like the support sat all the way over here, and then a flanker comes around the corner, and they go, oh, here's Grandma. Or even just McCree comes this way and goes, oh, here's Grandma, and she dies. So you've got to watch out for that early on, but that's kind of it from over here, and of course the goal is push people off, you know? Classic Lucio move, sit over there, wall right across, try to push somebody off the other side of the bridge immediately. Orissa's going to be doing her thing. Roadhog players like to sit up here and try to hook somebody in immediately, or over here and try to hook somebody in immediately. It's fairly safe to do unless you get hooked in retaliation, so careful if you decide to do that. Once you get pushed back here, because after too long you'll probably get pushed back from off there, and you'll end up defending kind of around here, because then we're just using the whole alleyway as a choke point, basically. Then you need to start worrying about this direction, because if there's a Roadhog, he's gonna be like, I'll go over here, and then he's looking behind the shield, he'll try to hook somebody, and then if he gets in trouble, he'll retreat over here. So you've got to watch out for that, but they can also go all the way around here, come through here, or go all the way up here, and round the back. And of course, if you're playing a long-range DPS, you're probably going to be sat back over here. This is pretty much the best line of sight you get once you've been pushed back a little bit. Can't really see into the hallway too well, so you could sit like a little bit more over here, but it's a scary place to stand if bad things start happening. This is safer, though a little bit of a less aggressive line of sight. And you've basically only got to watch for this hallway and like the lip behind you as well, because they can go up there, but like, you can see the whole courtyard from up here, so if someone manages to sneak past you and they're not Sombra, something went wrong. But then you've got to worry about that direction over there, and that's kind of it. The attacking team, if they've got a long-range DPS, they'll come, like, up here as well and try to, like, sit up here. This is, like, what Widowmaker players like to do, is sit up here, and then they get to contest the whole courtyard as well. So having somebody that can contest Widow ends up being really good. Even just Mei, she can get up here pretty easily. Or just your own DPS can contest back at them, you know, something like that. Somebody that can contest long-range DPS is good. Pharah gets less scary once you've been pushed all the way back over here, because she can't use the really good Rooftop anymore, but she can still do stuff like go all the way around here and then sneak up on the team, because once you get pushed back from over here, which will happen eventually in all likelihood, you're pretty much stuck over here at this point. Now, this does have the benefit where they have to come across the whole courtyard at you, and if they end up getting, like, the payload over here, but then they die and have to do it again, it's so hard to get across the courtyard without the payload, so then things are actually looking pretty good if you stop them here and wipe them, because then they have to do it without the payload. And at this point, you've pretty much just got to worry about this way over here, and like somebody poking in this doorway in the middle of a fight to try and get you, but flanking becomes less scary at that point, because there's only one way that you really have to check, but you're starting to get hemmed in and run out of options. There are a couple of health kits nearby to use. There's a big one over there and a small one over there. These also end up, if you've got a Sombra, these are really important health kits to hack. These are also, if the enemy team's got a Sombra, these are the places to watch, pretty much. These are very common ones to sit at. This one over here is a really good one to sit at for Sombra. They'll like to sit over here. Sometimes they'll go, like, for the one back here, or in here. But these are next to your spawn on the first defense, so the Sombra players are a little bit more hesitant to do that on this map. But those are the ones to watch out for. But it gets simpler once you're back here, but, you know, a little bit scarier at the same time, especially if they've got, like, an Ashe and a Widow up there. You feel, like, real claustrophobic real fast. But that's pretty much point one. So point two, a lot of people like to sit up here to try and defend point two. And this is not a very good place to sit. This bridge is not a particularly good choke point. It's very wide. It's not got a great angle because it's curved. There's not great places for your team to stand. It is better, as a defending team, to sit back over here. And again, like, Orisa Roadhog remain good for this point, because big space they've got to cover. There's a death pit right here. And this is where Bunker starts getting better, because you can camp this corner a little bit more easily. Even like Symmetra, this is a really obnoxious place to put Symmetra turrets on. Teleporter ends up getting some value off of the high ground traversal. So Symmetra ends up being cool. You can even, like, go up there as well. And with the infinite duration, hey, you could do some really obnoxious stuff with more long-range DPS around here. So Bunker ends up getting better around here. May gets a little bit less good on this point because there's less super sick places to wall people off. But I mean, you've still got it, right? Like, you can still do here, you can still do here, you can still do, like, over here as well. But it's not as great as previously, unfortunately, especially since, like, the attacking team, they've got more places they can go now that kind of, like, avoid May's area so much. But there's still places to wall, there's still, like, confined locations to throw Blizzard into and, like, bully people, so it's still fine, but she's less good. Long-range DPS, still a really long line of sight, still really good. You do have to watch out for Pharahs, because, hey, you can do, like, some really Dorado-type stuff around here once they start pushing up a little bit, and it starts getting a little bit annoying. Pharah players also, you know, here's something to watch out for if you're defending. Pharah crouch walking around here. If you're defending down there, Pharah comes down, does that to you. That's one to watch out for. Flanking in general gets kind of scary, though it's not too hard to watch for, as long as you're keeping an eye on this doorway and up there as well. If you're sitting a little bit further up, they flatly can't really get in there without you seeing them, but it's hard to hold here. You usually end up holding a little bit more back here, where we'll use this as the choke point. So you've got to watch for that. This is a scary place for flankers to come from, because, I mean, Pharah can do that, Reaper can do that, and it can be even harder to track him doing it. Sombra can drop down from up there using her Emp. You know, it's a high ground place flankers have easy access to, so all the traditionally good drop down on the defending team ultimates are, like, good to use here for them, so that's something to watch out for. And it's kind of hard to hold over here, but this is where this point gets obnoxious to push through, because now they've got to go through another channel, and there are, like, no really good options for flankers here anymore. Rooftop, very high, as we can see. Pharah can get through up here. There we go. Pharah can get through over here. Oh, well, I mean, a few people can, right? Genji and everybody can get up here if they've got vertical mobility, basically. But flanking, because not many people ever actually use this, I've noticed. Like, this is a really, like, underrated path to choose for some reason. I don't see many people do it. They end up usually just going most of the way up, and then go, like, I'll go through here instead. Like, once the defending team is, like, here, dude, you're gonna pop out at them, like, pretty unexpectedly. So that's something to watch out for, though in my experience is extremely underutilized as path to go, so, you know, keep an eye on it all the same, but less likely to happen. I think I've only ever seen it happen a couple of times, to be honest with you. So you've got to watch out for over there, but once you get pushed back over here, that path is significantly less scary. More scary at this point is just, like, they have a long-range DPS up there instead, because you don't really get a lot of cover over here from it. You know, you can stand in the doorway back here, but, like, it's not a great line of sight, and it's a really confined, scary location. You can sit over here, but then you don't have a very good line of sight down the hallway, because the arches kind of get in the way. So, like, having the attacking team having a long-range DPS up there is more scary than flankers at this point. There is still a death pit over here, though it's pretty rare to see full-on fights happen over here, but still, you know, bear it in mind. Roadhog gets to push people off, Winston gets to push people off. Still, Hammond can do it as well. Stuff to bear in mind still. This is where May gets a lot better back here. Once they start getting around the corner, the long-range DPS can sit, like, kind of all the way over here. And this is, like, pretty safe. It's really hard to get over here, and you've got, like, easy means of escape if they capture the checkpoint. So this is a cool place to stand if you are the long-range DPS, like Ash, Soldier, Widow, something like that. Similarly, up here, you know, good place to stand. Do have to watch for being flanked from down here, because if somebody like Reaper teleports into this doorway, you know, and you're just, like, shooting away over there, yeah, you're gonna get surprised. So bear in mind, though, not many heroes can really, like, sneak through that doorway unless they're gonna use this path, but, you know, we already covered that. And this is where, like, Bunker starts getting really good, because Torbjorn also, I should have said Torbjorn was good for the first point as well, because you can throw Molten Core into this whole hallway and the previous hallway, and fucking sucks, dude. Fucking sucks. But Molten Core is kind of that way in general. So Bunker gets good, and long-range DPS still good. Orisa Roadhog good. But there isn't much to the second checkpoint. Honestly, it's just the kind of in-between point. So third checkpoint, once they capture that, depending on how quickly you spawn, or if you got wiped, you can start using the archway right here as a choke point. Because the attacker's spawn is actually, like, all the way over here. So they don't, or all the way over here, I should say. So they've actually got, like, a little bit of distance to cover before they get to this archway. So this ends up actually being a good choke point. The problem is that, like, if you all committed to a point to defend this last bit right here, you are going to take a while to get back, so you probably won't get to use the archway as a choke point. You'll probably end up getting back more as they're, like, right around here, in all likelihood. Because you've got to come, like, pretty far at this point as the defending team. So if you manage to just give it up and have, like, a few people alive, this is a really sick choke point to play around. Again, really good for Symmetra, super obnoxious place to put turrets, and this is where the full bunker commit starts getting really good, because now they don't have many options for flanking you anymore, and if they manage to get through that point, this is, like, obnoxious as hell to push into a bunker comp. You just got the bunker sat, like, right here, and they're trying to push through this main doorway. It's very obnoxious. Mei still ends up being good, though less good during this more open part out here, because there's less places to wall people, but Blizzard still ends up being scary. She can still wall people over here. People coming through here, she'll wall them off. People coming through over here, she can wall them off. So Mei still ends up being good, but this is the point where there's less long sightlines for the long-range DPS to take advantage of. You can still do it, like, there's nothing to say you can't, like, sit back here as, like, Ashe or Soldier, right? Or even just, like, a little bit more back here. You can do it, but it's a little less good than the previous points. Also, once you get into the inside part of here, well, this is where the long-range DPS really start to struggle. So they get less good. This is where I like to more go, like, hard on a bunker on this map, though. To be honest with you, I find most games on Rialto don't get to the third checkpoint, but if they do, bunker ends up being pretty good back here. There isn't a whole lot to watch out for as far as, like, the attacking team goes. People can sneak up through here really easily, because you can't actually see that doorway anymore as the defending team. So at this point, flankers can really easily come through here and get to you. So if you're not paying attention, like, Reaper can come through, just even Pharah can come through and barrage you if she wants to, you know, you can't see from here, so you have to watch this doorway. You also have to watch this doorway, because it's a really easy route to go through. It's really easy to watch it, because you're coming into a room full of windows, so it's not exactly hard to keep an eye on that doorway, but people always forget to do so, but you have to keep an eye on it. If they've got a long-range DPS, they're going to start to try and, like, control this area up here, so having some way to contest somebody up here is as good as the defending team, because just having somebody up there becomes very obnoxious, but there isn't a whole lot to watch out for outside of those two doorways. Pharah gets to play around geometry again, as we can see, so be careful of that again, but Skybox is, like, pretty high on this map, all things considered, for Pharah. This is, you know, Pharah ends up being pretty good on most of this map. A little less good for the second checkpoint, because there's less geometry for her to play around, generally speaking, compared to the other two, but Pharah's pretty good on Rialto. It's a map that's very nice for her, which there are not too many good Pharah maps. Even if they've got, like, a long-range DPS, Pharah's got, like, a lot of options to, like, get up on the person, so Pharah ends up being pretty good on the map. So usually, if you can, this is great, hold this choke point over here. If not, hold a little bit more, like, back here, try to wipe them, then move up and control the choke point, because it's really annoying, and they've got enough distance to cover that even though it's right at the start of the checkpoint, it's actually a feasible choke point. It's just a matter on, like, how quickly your team retreated or got wiped as to whether or not you'll get it. If not, sit back here. And once you get pushed back in here, we're pretty much just trying to hold the doorways, dog. Like, this is where Mei gets good again, because, hey, two real clear places to wall people off. Big open space in the middle, great for Blizzard. She can wall off the people that are trying to go through the flanking paths as well, so Mei's good, Bastion's really good, Symmetra's really good, very annoying. Just like Symmetra's wall going across like the center of this room is extraordinarily obnoxious to push into. But again, Orisa Roadhog, they're pretty much the way to go as tanks the whole way through. There doesn't really become a point on this map where there's a better tank to pick as the defending team. Reinhardt really struggles on this map due to the long sight lines and general lack of cover to take advantage of pushing up. Though the payload is a nice shape for it, so there's that, but... if the enemy team's playing a fairly divey comp, or they've got a lot of flankers, you know, you might consider doing the Winston route, which is fine if they've got a lot of flankers as well. Hammond kind of ends up being blanketly good on a lot of maps as well, so it's not like he's going to end up being a bad choice, but Orisa Roadhog are pretty good. Consider, like, changing the Roadhog to Diva if they end up going things like Pharah, you know, McCree. People there are really good projectiles to eat, basically. But there isn't a lot to watch out for once you get to all the way back here. Just that door, keep an eye on that. If you're playing long-range DPS or, like Ana, Batista, try and sit, like, back here. It's quite hard to get to you. As long as... Over here, it's a little scarier, because this doorway's right next to you, but... These are pretty much the best places you can sit, very far back, hard to get to, cover to use, very nice. Long-range DPS in general, these will be like the best places you can sit back here, though you can't see out the doorway super well, but ideally you don't get pushed all the way back here, and I find most games don't get pushed all the way back here. But that's kind of it for the defending team. The first checkpoint is by far the most, like, complicated one for the defending team to worry about, really. The other two are fairly straightforward. This map basically being one long corridor all the way through. You can kind of say that of most payload maps, but this map in particular is like mostly just one long corridor with like 2 open rooms in the way. So let's go background and now talk about the attacking team. So the hardest point to attack, easily, first checkpoint. Because you're going to come around this corner, and what are you going to see? You're going to see, like, a bunker. You're going to see people waiting, just fucking waiting to get their play of the game right here. They're just waiting for it. So you've got to be really careful pushing through here. Basically, if you're attacking, the best options you've got are dive tanks or going Orisa Roadhog again. Because you can still take advantage of all the def planes that they can, and, hey... Orisa ends up being pretty good on payload maps a lot of the time. Or dive comps again. Reinhardt, still not very good for this map, because there's still just like these real big stretches that you've got to cover where his shield is just going to get broken way before you get there. The payload is very big. Excuse me, sorry. The payload is very big, so you can sit behind it and use it as cover, but Reinhardt really struggles on this map as a tank. DPS, I don't think there's any one that's, like, excels over the others. Flankers are, like, pretty good on this map just because there's lots of options available to you. It is still a good Pharah map. This is still very annoying, you know, it's still a good Pharah map. But I don't think there are any DPS that, like, are dramatically better at the attacking team. At flankers, I think, have a slight advantage. Pharah has a slight advantage, but not massively so. I've seen all kinds win. Hanzo ends up being pretty good on the attacking team as well, because there's lots of confined places where people kind of like to dig in on this map, so having his ultimate to just displace them is very nice, if nothing else. And if the enemy team is kind of like defending a little bit up here, just like throwing Dragon through this alleyway sometimes catches a couple of people, even without assistance, right? Because it's just like a confined location they have to back up through. So he ends up being pretty good. He's also just good at breaking barriers, so that's nice as well. Junkrat, similar deal. You know, confined locations, good at breaking barriers. If you went into a bunker, those are like your best options. And flankers have got a lot of options. So you can come around here. And this is sometimes good to do as, like, Roadhog, as kind of a soft flank, is go all the way around here. And you can get just, like, a different angle on the defender's shield and sometimes catch somebody out. And there's a large health kit here. It's, like, pretty easy to retreat, but you've got to be careful you don't get booped off on this bridge right here, but sometimes you can do that as Roadhog. This is a good place to, like, use a health kit as Sombra, you know, or just a flanker in general. This health kit's very nice. Very convenient location for a full health kit. This is by far the hardest part to get through, and you've just got to be really careful you don't get booped off the bridge, because it's what they're going to try to do to you. And they might have, like, 4 people over here that can feasibly do it. So this is by far the scariest part of the attack. Once you get out over the bridge, dude, it's free, easy, clear sailing from there. That's the harrowing part. We kind of already talked about all your options from, like, the defender's perspective as well. You know, once you get past this corner over here, if you're playing, like, Roadhog, or even just, like, McCree, Soldier, anybody like that, you can come over here and use this to get, like, an angle behind their shields, and it's really safe. Like, it's hard for you to die over here unless they collapse on you very suddenly, so this is good to just get a different angle and try to harass people. Do still be careful, because I've seen, like, McCree's sit here, Bridget sit here, you know, just waiting for somebody to come around the corner. So bear in mind, or like Roadhogs as well, because it's kind of an expected behavior. But still, good angle, pretty safe, just be careful all the same. If you've got vertical mobility, you can do something like that over here, where you get different angle on them as well, and you can harass them through here. Again, pretty safe, unless they, like, collapse on you very suddenly. If there's a Mei, she might be able to catch you, but she'll have to react pretty fast, so this can be good just to harass through as well if you've got vertical mobility. And if you're a long-range DPS, like, this is the best you can do, like, pretty much. And you can, like, peek and poke at them as well. If you're a flanker, you know, if you're Reaper, Pharah, you can drop down here and try to get them when they're sat, like, right here. Should have pointed that out on the defending team as well, but hey, we got there in the end. That's the important thing. This part, not that bad in my experience. The really hard part is, like, getting this point. Because if you get all the way over here and you die, now you've got to do this again without the payload. And that's so much more difficult. Now, the trick is, if that happens to you, don't just rush across the point, like right across over here, because this is such a hard place to go through. It's just a big kill box with, like, no cover in it. Don't do that. Try to get your team to go around this way instead. You get to use more cover this way. If you can, like, you'll get, you know, this requires a fair bit of coordination, but if you can, getting your whole team to go around this way with you is quite obnoxious. And then, like, if they're defending here, and you've got, like, an aggressive team, you can just drop down on them and they're going to be like, whoa, what the fuck? But, you know, getting your whole team to do that is going to be difficult. The main thing is just going through the courtyard is extremely difficult. Try to take a little bit more of a side route. Even just, like, going around this way instead, right? You've got more cover to work with. I see a lot of people just try to do this. It's very difficult to do that. If you're running a dive comp, you can cover this large distance very quickly, but if you aren't, then you have to, like, try and use a little bit more cover. Try and take a bit of a side route instead. You know, even if you can only get your team to go, like, up here with you, you know? Like, this is annoying enough. Get the high ground defenders out and all that. This is a map where having, like, one person that can disrupt the high ground defenders is going to be really big as well. Even if it's a flanker or one of your tanks, either way, doesn't really matter. A D.Va, a Genji, something to contest the high ground is nice, because there's usually going to be somebody up on one of these points the entire time, and just, like, while you're trying to push through here, having just, like, a soldier up here harassing you the entire time is extraordinarily obnoxious. So having somebody to contest those high grounds is very important as well. Doesn't really matter who, just, like, someone. I guess I didn't really say, I don't think any of the supports have a significant advantage either. Ana and Batista end up being generically good, as does Zenyatta, but I don't think any of the supports excel over the others either. I think for the attacking team, it's a relatively, like, even map, where I don't think there's one category of heroes that's got, like, a dramatic advantage over the others. But there are ones that do have their advantages. Mostly flankers. So that's, like, the hard part, though, is if you stall out over there. This is just generally true of payload maps, really. Is if you get most of the way through the checkpoint and then you end up dying, you have to do it again without the payload, and that's very hard to do. Just try not to cover the exact same route that the payload went through, because, like, this part is only fair to go through if you have the payload with you. If you don't, shit, dude, it's really open. There's no cover. That's very scary. So try to take a bit more of a side route. Try to have somebody to disrupt the high ground, and, you know, the same holds true as ever. If, like, one route isn't working for you, try something else. You know, we tried this, that didn't work, let's try this. Alright, that didn't work, let's try, like, going around this way, you know? Even if, like, you stall out over here, right? Like, don't just keep trying to, like, death march across the bridge. Try something else. You've got options. Try to get over here instead. Also, these ones can't break for some reason, so this bridge, not scary. You know, if you're stalling out over there, try to get your team to go around this way, and then you come up behind them. You know, try something different. Don't keep trying the same path over and over again. Mix it up. Maybe try a flanker. Take one of the different routes. There's lots of options for flankers, you know? Just try and mix it up a little bit. Don't keep trying to ram your head against the wall over and over and over again as the attacking team. Because that's what typically happens, is people are like, this is just the best route to go. This is the one I've seen the fucking streamers go through, so this is the way. If it's not working, it's not working. Try a different route. There's different routes for reasons, right? Try and take advantage of the options given to you. So second checkpoint, this is where having a long-range DPS or people to or just like divers to contest theirs becomes very important, because shit, dude, if there's a widow up there here, this fucking sucks to push into. Like, that is fucking terrible. So having somebody that can contest them, either another long-range hit scan or a flanker, really good to have right here. Try and take advantage of it if you can, or stop them from taking advantage of it, rather. The hard part, like, getting across this bridge is not very hard. Sometimes people struggle to get across here, but, like, basically don't try and rush it. Because usually it's because people are just, like, impatient and just try to sprint across the bridge in one rush, and then they, like, get just mangled coming across because they're getting harassed the entire time all the way they're running across. Just, like, be patient, don't be afraid to, like, poke and prod, slowly advance, especially if you're going, like, an Orisa. Just, like, leapfrog towards them. It's not the end of the world. You've got a curve in this bridge, so if they're sat, like, right here, you can use the bridge as cover. So try just to, like, not get too psyched out about it. You've got places you can try and, like, get kills from. If you're, like, Roadhog, you can try and hook people into the river, stuff like that. But this is not really the hard part. It's more once you get over here. So, once you get over here, this is by far the place I've seen the most matches get decided on this, because the attackers just can't break through this choke point. Because there's just something obnoxious over here, right? Like, there's like an Orisa, maybe even a Reinhardt, and there's a bunker here, and it's really hard to get through. The thing is, don't just keep trying to go through this path again. You know, this is an overarching thing with attacking in general, is remember all the options that you have available to you, right? Defenders, they've got limited options. They're trying to play around choke points. They're trying to play around the natural, like, form of the map, because there are just certain places that are good to defend from. You're the attacking team, you have no such restrictions. The world is your oyster. You can try and approach from any angle that you want. And your inclination is mostly just to follow the route that the payload goes through. You don't have to. If you can clear them out, then you can push the payload through that area, no problem. So if you're stalling out here, you don't have to go through with the payload necessarily. Because if the payload's here, you know, if you go through another way, if you go through here, and you get up on the bastion, because he's just sat like this way, like watching here, and nobody's watching this doorway, get your team to come through here and kill them. No big deal, right? You can get people to come around up here and try to, like, control the high ground area instead. You can get people, you can come, like, all the way around over here, right? And, hey, look, if you don't have vertical mobility, you're up here now. Then you can come around here, and you can start harassing them from back here. And, like, by all accounts, it's actually pretty annoying to deal with people up here, because this is a very big jump to make. So if they don't have someone with vertical mobility, which is a little rarer for the defending team to have, then you can come up here and harass people, and as long as you're not being, like, ridiculous about it, it's pretty easy to retreat from, especially if somebody comes to help you. So just, like, remember you've got options. You don't have to keep bashing your head against this choke point the entire time. You can harass them through here. If you're playing Roadhog, you can come over here and use this as a different angle. You can get your you can get the DPS to come and contest, like, this area up here, you know? You can do stuff like that. And if nothing else, throw 6 ultimates at it. I don't care what point you're dealing with on the game. If you just can't get through it, if you throw 6 ultimates at that choke point, you're gonna get through that choke point, dog. And that's the main part of the issue, is just getting through the choke point. So don't, like, keep smashing your head against it. You've got options. Take advantage of them. You got this. You got up there. You got over there. You've got this path back here that people never use. Like, you know, you've got all kinds of cool stuff that you can do. So try and take advantage of it. And once you get through here, that's most of the work done for this checkpoint. It gets a little bit hard over here because the defenders start getting a pretty big spawn advantage over you, so this becomes a little bit more difficult, but this is like 80% of the work for this checkpoint. Just don't keep bashing your head. This is like a pretty hard angle to approach from, so if you can't like get a really convincing engagement on the defending team, you'll have to be a little bit more sneaky about it. You'll have to start doing other stuff. Farah, really good for attacking this particular point because, hey, look at all this stuff you can do, and if nothing else, dude, nothing will clear out a bunker comp faster than doing that. Bear it in mind, it's an option. So yeah, just bear in mind, you've got options. Take advantage of them. They're there for a reason. Once you get over here, it's not so bad because it isn't as severe of a choke point that you have to push through. It's just the fact that at this point, you have to start getting a really convincing fight on them because they've got a pretty big spawn advantage. Their spawn is only right over here, right? So once you're here, they can reinforce a lot faster than you can because you've got to come from your spawn is all the fuck way over here at this point. So once you get to the end of this checkpoint, oh good heavens, like even at 300% move speed, it took a little bit of time to get back here, right? Like, it's long. If you've got no movement, it's bad. Once you get like a fair bit of the way through this checkpoint, having a Lucio gets good just to get people back here faster. Even like a Symmetra, dude, like, you know, especially with the infinite duration teleporter. Got one coming over here. Shit, that cuts out a fair amount of time already. That's gonna be something that's pretty sick about the infinite duration teleporter, to be honest with you. Attackers have got a really bad spawn. Even defenders have got like a really bad spawn. Dude, put the infinite teleporter there. It's not as long of a walk back anymore. Yeah, look at that. We balanced Blizzard's maps for them. Isn't that nice? Anyway, so off of my own world. People that can really succeed in like confined locations get really good for like this checkpoint and the upcoming one. Because this is pretty confined. When there's like a Reaper or a Mei running around in here, the defenders tend to start panicking a little bit. And, you know, Mei's got a pretty good ult for making people move if they've got a bunker. Hanzo does the same thing. Even Junkrat, you know. It's not super open. It's a little bit more open than the first point's hallway is, but usually it's like a bunker sat here. People that make them move will be nice. And at this point, it's really just like playing a 2CP map. You've just gotta wipe them, and that can be difficult to do. And especially with the spawn advantage, all I can say is try and have people that are faster to get back over here, or somebody that can make your team a little bit faster to get back, you know? Because once you get into this brawl over here, it can drag on. It can really drag on. I've seen fights over here that have lasted like 2 CP lengths of time on second checkpoints, right? Like, it can be pretty bad. People that have got big AoE ultimates are nice for this point because, hey, once you get here, once you've got the payload here, there isn't a lot of cover in this spot. You throw a Blizzard, like, right there, it's controlling this whole space, dude. And it makes them really scared to come up and touch the payload. So that can be enough just to, like, force them off at this point. Those big AoE ultimates like Dragon Strike, Blizzard, Graviton, anything like that. It really is good. It'll punish them for being clumped up in, like, this hallway as well, which is nice to do. We kind of covered that on the first checkpoint as well. But it really is just about wiping people at this point. Once you get through here, it's about getting a clean fight, and then picking off the stragglers before they can do anything, and that's going to be kind of hit or miss. So, attacking this point, very hard to do. This is the second most likely place I've seen people stall out, is this point right here. This gets very Dorado-esque. Like, this is kind of an annoying point to get through. It reminds me a lot of the first checkpoint on Dorado. So, this is a very obnoxious little alleyway to get through. So, if you can't get through this alleyway, like if they manage to get the nice spawn or they manage to disengage, like we talked about when defending, this is where you'll struggle. So, getting up through here, very hard to do, not advised. Best to try and circumnavigate the choke point to get a better engage, then push the payload through here if you can. Like, going up through here, such a better angle to try and engage from. Because if they're over here, like, just think about it, dude. Like, think about all this space that you have to cover while they're harassing you the whole time. Maybe there's some Metra turrets, maybe there's a Torbjorn turret right up there, you know? Maybe there's a Mei that's walling you off, maybe you push through, get earth shattered, like, so much can go wrong going up through here. It's a little bit like Dorado and the fucking ditch from Gibraltar. It's pretty obnoxious. If you can, get your team to, like, come up around here with you, or even, like, come up around here with you, you know, you can pit, though this is, like, a lot scary to do, because, like, this confined location you have to push out through. Send, like, a couple people up here, but it's hard to get a whole team through that doorway. You know, it's just a better angle to engage from and, like, pick a fight from over here, and they haven't got, like, if you're sit over here trying to defend the whole, from the whole team pushing over there, this is kind of scary. You get pushed into this corner, and if they're over there, like, and you're defending, where do you go from, dude? You know, if you manage to get the entire team to come up through there, or just, like, a few people, you get, like, half your team to come up through here, you can box them in a little bit, which is nice to do. But difficult to get your teammates to do that. I usually, when I make these videos, I operate under the impression that you are probably playing solo or duo for the most part. And it's difficult to get, like, a whole team to do that, but it is good if you can get them to do it. You kind of, like, box them in. It's just easier to stage it from. You can get, like, DPS to try and control this area up here, harass them the whole time, but you've got to be careful because the defenders can get up here quite easily, especially if they've got somebody with a dash, so that's something to bear in mind. And there's nothing to say a defender can't come through this doorway. Like, there's nothing to say a Reaper can't stand over here, teleport into this doorway, and then come around and flank you as the attacking team, right? Like, this is something to bear in mind. If you're pushing up through here, somebody might come through this doorway. And if somebody like Mei or Reaper comes through this doorway, that's fucking scary. You've got to be ready to react to that, because your backline might just get minced if you're up here and not paying attention to that doorway behind you. You can see people go into it, but that doesn't necessarily help you if, like, Reaper teleports in there, or Mei just, like, slips in while nobody's looking, right? Like, you've got to bear in mind, this door can flank you as the attacking team. Similarly, this doorway can flank you as the attacking team as well, right? So that's something to bear in mind. You do have to worry about getting flanked as the attacking team on here. Even from up there, right? Like, Reapers love to hang out up there and drop down on the defending team as they push through. So bear in mind, this point gets scary for the attacking team for flankers. So bear that in mind. But this is the hard part. It's best circumnavigated if you can. If not, like, try to get people up here harassing. Try to get somebody over here, like, poking and prodding at them. If you're Roadhog, yeah, you can do a soft flank over here, come around, get an angle on the shield, try to hook somebody, get a pick. Very hard for you to die from over here as Roadhog, or most people in general. Like, somebody like Soldier and McCree can come stand over here, and it's difficult to die. Be careful. I've seen people sit here waiting for it to happen as well to get them as they come through. Be careful, but still, as long as you're paying attention, you know, check your corner as you come around. This is a nice angle to harass from. Flankers, if you got a flanker, can come up through here. Defenders kind of like to stand around, like, here-ish, so a Mei or a Reaper can come around through this door and just, like, start mincing them real quickly, and then, like, ooh, look, I'm back at my team again, if you're Reaper, right? It's just, this is the hard part. It's all, like, just remember, these are your options. Try to take advantage of them. Try to, like, use the geometry to your favor as much as you can. Don't keep just bashing your head against the choke point over and over again. You've got other ways to circumnavigate it. If you've got options as the attacking team, that's the best thing you can ask for. The hardest maps to break as attackers in this game are the ones that have minimal options for you to take advantage of, like Hanamura's first checkpoint. Very few options for you to get through that gate, right? It's very hard for people to get through that gate. So that's the that's the thing that makes maps hard for attackers, is when you only really have one option. That makes it so easy for the defenders to react to you, because there's just less you can do. So try to keep the defenders on the back foot, try to take advantage of all the options you have available to you. And by all accounts, like, this is an annoying choke point to break through because of just the design of the choke point itself, but you've got a lot of options for getting around the choke point. You've got a bunch of different doorways to get around, and you've got a bunch of different pieces of geometry to take advantage of. Take advantage of it. Don't just have 6 people trying to march through this alleyway the entire time. Use the geometry to your advantage. So once you get over here, this is where it gets full 2 CP at this point, where you have to now kill everybody in this room very convincingly. Like this right here, this is a 2 CP spawn point, right? Like you come through, this is your spawn as the defending team. You come out here, you're back, right? Like this is a very 2 CP spawn point for the defenders. It's not quite as bad as like Hanamura is, but it's pretty bad. Like, this is one of the most obnoxious points to capture on a payload map, just because the spawn, like the geometry of this room, like this could be a 2 CP room right here, couldn't it? It's so obnoxious, dude. And you don't really have many options to you at this point as the attacking team. This is how most map design goes in Overwatch, where the maps start out open so that the attackers have a bunch of options for them available, which makes it easier for them to break the points. But as the map progresses, it slowly narrows into this funnel choke point, because at that point the defenders get to like dig in their heels and do the desperate last stand, remember the Alamo type stuff, right? So once you get to these points on maps as in Overwatch, as the attacking team, you are typically running out of options to have anymore. Like, you have got very minimal options for flanking. You've got this doorway, it's not great. And you've got this doorway over here, it's not great, right? If this is basically, if you're playing like your Roadhogs, your Soldiers, things like this is where you can go for your soft flank. It just gives you a slightly better angle, because the defending team will probably be here-ish, you know? So if you come around here as Roadhog, Soldier, you can, like, poke and prod at them, and it's pretty easy to retreat from as well. You've got a health kit over here that you can use as well, which is nice also. Not a great place for it to be, all the way over in this corner, but it's there, it's something, you know? This is, like, where you go for, like, that kind of stuff as Roadhog now. But, like, really, it's just about getting a good engage. This is where having really big, like, team wipe ultimates gets good to have, because of the necessity to just wipe them here to actually capture this point. So your Blizzards, your Gravitons, your Self-Destructs, big area denial ultimate, team wipe ultimates are good here. Dragon Blade's good. There's not a lot of places for the defenders to run away from, so if you get a Genji in here with a Nano Blade, like, the defenders don't have many places to run to because they are back against the wall at this point. But it's really about getting the nice, clean engage and wiping the enemy team. So big AoE ultimates, combo ultimates, this is where you throw all your ultimates at it to try and get that good wipe. You do kind of have to worry about getting flanked here, because if you're kind of like out here, it's hard to see the doorways on the side. So you do have to be a little bit worried about getting flanked as the attacking team here, because typically what happens once you get to this point is, like, the payload will stop, like, probably around here. And you'll play a poking, prodding game at this point, and you can't really see the doorways on the sides super easily from here. And people can go through without mostly being unnoticed. Like, if you come out the right side and, like, hug this wall, you're not really very exposed to the enemy team, so it's not that hard. If you're like Reaper, you can teleport across, right? If you're Mei, you can do, or Sombra, Mei, you can get rammed, so you do have to worry about getting flanked here, because there are the 2 doors on the side. They're not great for you to use as flanking as the attacking team. This one's not terrible, but it's not fantastic. But it's not very hard for the defenders to use them to try and sneak out on you, so it's something to bear in mind, but is not typically what happens on this map. But it's not weird to see a defender, like, come around one of these doorways as, like, Roadhog. Like, a Roadhog on the defending team can try and do that to, like, get a different angle on you, right? It's a lot scarier for him to do. Like, look how far Roadhog has to go to get back to safety compared to your Roadhog, right? Like, it's more of an investment for the defending team's Roadhog to come out here than it is for the attacking team's Roadhog to come in here. But it is something that happens sometimes. It's something to bear in mind. It's something to be aware of. But it's really about getting a clean engage, big ultimates, big combos. This is where you want them, right here. Big AoE denial, throw a blizzard on the point, like right here, dude. They don't want to come and touch it anymore, but they gotta come and touch it. So that's where it gets good. But that's pretty much Rialto. Those are the things I recommend doing. Those are the things I recommend watching out for, and that's about all I got for you. Very obnoxious map to play on. Definitely one of the maps I dread seeing the most coming up, but you know, just bear in mind, you've got options, because the attackers almost always forget it. So thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join a Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us. I've started streaming on Twitch Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 8 PM EST till midnight EST. There's a link to the channel in the description. And if you managed to make it all the way through the video and somehow still enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more content of middling quality in the future. And I hope you found the video helpful.